So the MAGA Republican crowd are going crazy, celebrating Judge Aileen Cannon's decision to grant Donald Trump's request for a special master in his lawsuit down in Florida. But is that really a great victory? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So Fox News and all the Republicans are going crazy, excited over the victory that they had in court. But as victories go, this one seems pretty hollow to me. Let's check out this attorney's analysis on Fox News, and I'll let you know my thoughts on it as we watch. Let's check it out.
Let's bring in Mark Smith, a former member of Trump's transition team and a constitutional attorney. Mark, good morning. It's great to see you. What is your take on the appointment of this special master, and where do things go from here?
Well, obviously, from a public relations point of view.
Okay, let's start with this. What is a special master? Many people have been asking. Well, a special master is an individual, typically a lawyer, usually a retired judge, who is basically appointed by the court to review documents prior to a certain party being able to access them. So a great example of this would be, let's just say that there's a process of discovery in a civil lawsuit. That's the process where both sides kind of trade information so each side can see what the other has. If it turns out that some of the records might be privileged because, say, they're medical records, then the special master might look at them first to determine if they really are necessary for the other side to see without jeopardizing the rights of the person who's being protected. So that's essentially what Donald Trump has asked. And the way that you have seen special masters sometimes appointed in cases like this has been if there might be attorney-client privilege involved in certain documents. But in Donald Trump's case here, there are a couple of interesting facts to it. One is that he's not asking for documents to be protected under attorney-client privilege. And indeed, that'd be a questionable request because any discussions he had with government attorneys while he was president of the United States would not be his privilege being protected, be the privilege of the citizens of the United States. It would only be if he were talking to a private attorney who were unemployed by the government. What's more is his claim of some type of executive privilege seems odd given the fact, number one, that he's not executive anymore. He's obviously not the president anymore, so how can you have a privilege if you're not the president? And number two, the agency that's seeking to get these documents is part of the executive of the government. So where executive privilege might be seeking to protect this information, say, from the media or from Congress, in this case, it doesn't even make sense because they're protecting it from another part of the executive branch. But making sense is not something you often see in Trump world. Let's keep watching here.
This is a huge victory for President Trump because the Department of Justice said they did not want a special master appointed because it was not needed. And why wasn't it needed, according to the Department of Justice? It's because the Department of Justice could be trusted to, filter through the relevant information. Anything that should not be turned over to the investigative team would be set aside. But
okay, so I actually think that this attorney does a pretty good job overall. And I agree with some of his analysis. Number one being that his claim that this is a huge public relations victory. Now, anyone outside of Trump world is going to say, what's the big deal? But this is something that they can point to and say, look, this is proof that we won, that a judge validated our claims. When in fact, if you actually read the ruling by Judge Cannon, problematic as it is on many levels, in no way, shape, or form does she criticize the behavior of the Department of Justice. She does not criticize the behavior of the FBI. She does not say that in any way they've compromised anything or done anything inappropriate. All she says is that because of the special status that she confers upon Donald Trump based upon his status as the former president of the United States, that he deserves some special consideration by the court that shows that they've gone the extra mile to provide fairness to him. Now, while I disagree with that point, I can see her argument. But I think it's worthy of note that in no way, shape, or form does she cast any shade on the behavior of the Department of Justice or the FBI in this case. Let's keep watching.
Here you have an independent federal judge saying, I hear what you're saying, Department of Justice, but I'm not going to agree with you here. We need
Okay, let's start with this. Independent federal judge. This is not an independent federal judge. This is a judge who is appointed by Donald Trump, who is deemed as less than fully qualified by the American Bar Association, which is the typical standard you look to have for people who are appointed to be a federal judge. And what's more is it's clear that Donald Trump's basically engaged in a form of judge shopping to try to get this case in front of Judge Cannon. I'll link to an article down below that details all the lengths they went to get this case in front of her. And it just shows that they knew this was a judge who would not give a fair hearing to the Department of Justice and instead would do basically whatever Donald Trump asked. So let's keep watching.
An independent third party that has no connection to the Department of Justice to make this determination. The other interesting thing, if you look at the court order, is apparently some of the documents that were supposed to have been filtered out already were exposed improperly to the investigative team. And the judge says, in light of that, I simply cannot trust the Department of Justice to do the job itself. And we need an independent person in here. So again, it is a blow to the Department of Justice as to how long.
Now, let me just make this clear. They're claiming that there are certain documents that were inappropriate that were seized, but what they did is that they seized boxes, and the search warrant was actually quite explicit about the fact that they could seize documents that belonged to the government as well as also documents that were surrounding them to kind of show how these documents were being stored. So in this case, they were able to seize documents, top secret documents in some cases, and we find out even nuclear related documents that are being stored with Donald Trump's personal documents. And that's the point that they're making. They're saying, oh, they shouldn't have seen these personal documents. But the point is that these were the documents that the top secret documents were stored with. So let's keep watching.
It will be a blow to the DOJ's and their investigation. Hard to say, but for the moment, it's a win for Donald Trump.
You mentioned how long.
Okay. It's a win for Donald Trump from a PR perspective, but does it really accomplish anything? Well, if the goal is to try to slow down the investigation, then yes, that could be the case. It certainly will slow things down. But this is an investigation now that's been going on for 18 months. And given how careful Merrick Garland is, it's hard to say that it exactly proceeds at lightning speed anyway. So might it slow things down? Is that what Donald Trump wants to do? Just continue to drag his feet, which is pretty much his standard operating procedure? Well, if that's the case, that might accomplish something. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't accomplish anything substantive. It doesn't stop the prosecution. It doesn't stop the Department of Justice from proceeding with its investigation. It doesn't stop the intelligence community from assessing the damage that might have been caused to national security as a result of these documents. This is just a stalling tactic that in the broader scheme of things really doesn't accomplish a whole lot. Let's keep watching.
The DOJ is complaining this will delay this process. Mark, why are they in such a rush here when investigations like, say the Durham investigation are taking a very long time?
I find it interesting that they bring up the Durham investigation when the Durham investigation has resulted in basically no prosecutions after millions of dollars spent, and the only prosecution that it did raise, they actually failed to convict the person they were accusing. But let's keep watching.
I'm not really sure the Department of Justice is really in a rush at the end of the day, because keep in mind, President Trump has been out of office for over a year and a half, which is not exactly a fast time. And they've been talking about these documents for, again, just about 18 months. So what is the rush here?
That's actually the point here, which is the fact that the Department of Justice and prior to that, the National Archives have been working for a year and a half to try to get these documents back. And Donald Trump has done everything he's been capable of to try to stop them from getting them back. His intransigence here is in and of itself the crime. So the long delay is actually completely relevant to the discussion here. Let's keep watching.
I'm not sure at the end of the day there really is a rush, but certainly that was their position in court in front of this federal judge. They wanted to move with speed because it's so important, but one does wonder, well, why did it take them 18 months if this is so important? It's not like these documents and the president was unknown. They've known about this. So, yes, I think that might be a litigation position, but
yeah, they've known about this and they kept trying to get the documents back, and he's continued to refuse to give them back, which again is a crime. Let's keep watching.
At the end of the day, one wonders, are they really moving with speed? It's not so clear.
Yeah, we're sort of at the start of this saga right now. Let's jump to the end of it. How do you see all of this playing out? And ultimately, do you think the former president is going to face charges as it relates to these documents?
I'm not sure he's actually going to be indicted. But remember, sometimes the lingering concern about being...
Yeah, nobody knows if this is actually going to result in charges. The prime goal was to try to get these documents back, and obviously they've now succeeded in that. The question is it going to result in prosecution? Well, that is yet to be seen. Let's keep watching.
Indicted or charged with a crime is a punishment in and of itself, because the mere fact that we're having this conversation today about whether or not President Trump is going to be charged with a crime demonstrates that in terms of a public relations political point of view, it's something that we're talking about, right? We're not talking about the midterms so much. We're talking about President Trump, who hasn't been president for almost, upward going towards 2 years, right? And yet we're still talking about him. So how does this ultimately play out? There's the question of what will happen in the court system. I'm skeptical they will actually charge him, but in terms of the ongoing political ramifications of this, we're going to keep talking about this because it's a big deal, because he's a former president of the United States and a potential future presidential candidate. So of course it's going to remain in the headlines.
Yeah, Republicans during the midterms can't take the bait on this. They need to keep the messaging on the economy.
Okay, I think this is the great point here, which is that all of this fuss has caused a big problem for Republicans because, of course, they want to kind of put Donald Trump behind them. They want to focus on Joe Biden, who, let's face it, his favorability ratings could be higher. They want to focus on inflation, which, let's face it, is probably higher than we'd like it right now. But instead, we have Donald Trump forcing himself into the headlines again, just reminding people of everything they don't like about him, which is a big problem for Republicans with this election coming up. Let's keep watching.
Economy and on the border and the like. Mark, before we let you go, one word that jumped out at me in all the reports yesterday from this judge: taxes. Mentioned that Trump's taxes were taken. Could there be a connection between the so-called records case, which is what the DOJ is calling it, and some of these tax investigations of Donald J. Trump that are going on throughout the country?
Well, at the very beginning of this country, our founding fathers, when they wrote the Constitution, were very concerned with what were known as general warrants, which basically was when the British soldiers would just go into a person's home randomly and go through all aspects of it, looking for evidence of an unspecified crime. And that's why we have the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution today. And yet here we have a situation, if you look at the warrant request, they basically said, if you see anything relating to the 4 years that President Trump was the president in any respect, then you should take that. And that is apparently what happened down at Mar-a-Lago. That is not consistent, in my view, with the Fourth Amendment. That seems to be a general warrant of the exact sort of thing our founding fathers were worried about when they wrote the Constitution, to try to limit government power and protect individual liberties.
Yeah, the judge yesterday, like Todd said that some of the things that were taken had to do with tax, accounting information, medical records as well. Doesn't sound like any of that has to do with the National Archives. So more to come on that front for sure. Mark, thank you so much.
Now, again, the point is that the warrant was quite explicit about the fact that it had to seize the documents that belonged to the government, as well as the documents that they were stored with, so that they could show the context within which these documents were stored, and just how haphazardly these important secrets of the United States were just being kind of thrown into boxes and kept in a place where they were not secure from prying eyes. I also think it's worthy of note that this attorney raised this issue questioning whether the warrant was appropriate. Judge Aileen Cannon raised no such concerns. She had no problem with the warrant. She said Donald Trump's rights were not violated. All she said is that she wanted to make sure that every appearance of fairness was achieved, which is all she was trying to do with the appointment of a special master. But I knew, as soon as I saw this, that Trump world would be trying to spin this into some kind of big victory, which, as you can see, that's exactly what they're trying to do. If you want to find out more about how Donald Trump and William Barr politicized the Department of Justice, and how that John Durham investigation that they talked about has fallen flat on its face, check out this video I did a little while ago over here. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.